If Judaism is true, then why did God leave the temple? For 1,000 years, the Jewish temple was the center of heaven and earth, the one place where God's presence visibly rested. Yet one day, it was gone. The fire went out, the glory lifted, and history went silent. Generations wept, priests asked, prophets searched, but heaven no longer answered. Now the question is, why? No prophet, no voice, no cloud of glory, just absence. And strangely, the ancient rabbis knew something had changed, but few want to talk about it today. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll see why God left the temple and why it wasn't a mystery, but a message. And that message points straight to what many people don't want to hear today. If you are new here, I invite you to subscribe to Christian Chronicles. We reveal biblical and Christian truths like you've never seen before. So to begin with, let me take you back to many centuries ago. You see, the temple wasn't just a building. It was the visible proof of God's covenant with Israel, the one place on earth where His presence, the Shekhinah, dwelled. Inside its inner chamber, behind a thick veil, the glory of God filled the Holy of Holies. Every sacrifice, every prayer, every festival, all of it pointed to that sacred reality, that God is with us. But here's what many overlook. Long before the Romans ever destroyed the temple, that glory had already begun to fade. Jewish sources themselves record it. The Urim and Thummim, those sacred stones that once revealed God's will, stopped working centuries earlier. Prophets no longer heard His voice. The Ark of the Covenant vanished. Even the Talmud, not a Christian source, admits that signs of divine favor had ceased generations before the temple fell. So when the Roman fires came in 70 AD, something far more tragic had already happened. And you know what it is? God's presence was gone. But here's where it gets fascinating. The real question isn't when the glory departed. It's why the God who commanded this house to be built chose to leave it. The ancient rabbis themselves struggled to explain what happened. In Yoma 39b, a respected tractate of the Talmud, they record something strange, even unsettling. There it says that for 40 years before the temple was destroyed, the crimson thread used on Yom Kippur, which is a symbol of Israel's sins being forgiven, stopped turning white. Also, the lamp of the menorah, which was supposed to burn continuously, kept going out by itself. And the massive temple doors, made of solid cedar and bronze, began to swing open on their own. Do you get it? It says 40 years. The rabbis said these strange signs began 40 years before the temple's fall. Do you know what else happened 40 years before 70 AD? That's the exact period between around 30 AD, the time Jesus was crucified, and 70 AD, when the temple was destroyed. Will you call that a coincidence? Now remember that these aren't Christian writings, these are Jewish records. The rabbis themselves admitted that something divine had changed, and they didn't have an answer for it. But do you know what most of them hate to admit? Something changed after the death of Jesus, something the temple itself seemed to testify to. The temple was never meant to be permanent. It was a shadow, a signpost pointing towards something greater. Every sacrifice on its altar, every drop of blood sprinkled by the priests was a rehearsal for one final act of redemption. And then it happened. When Jesus died, the Gospels record something extraordinary. The massive veil of the temple, that thick curtain separating humanity from God's presence, tore from top to bottom. Not from human hands, but from heaven itself. It was as if God was declaring, "This system is finished. My presence no longer lives in walls of stone. It lives in the one true temple, the body of Christ." The sacrifices had served their purpose. The blood that truly atones had been shed, and that is the blood of Jesus Christ. In that moment, the glory that once filled the Holy of Holies moved, not into another building, but into every heart that would believe. This isn't just history, it's a message. God was never gone. He was simply waiting to dwell closer than ever before. Now, let's look at how what happened next in history confirmed it even more clearly. After the destruction of the temple in 70 AD, the Jewish people longed to rebuild. Generations passed, yet the dream never faded. But every attempt to restore it met the same mysterious end. In the 4th century, Emperor Julian, no friend of Christianity, personally funded a project to rebuild the temple, determined to disprove Jesus' prophecy. Eyewitnesses say fire burst from the ground and halted the work. It's as if heaven itself guarded that mountain, declaring, "The old covenant is finished. The true temple has already risen." The project was abandoned. Centuries later, other plans surfaced: political movements, religious zeal, architectural blueprints. But the same silence followed. No fire from heaven, no Ark of the Covenant, no Shekhinah returning to fill the most holy place. It was as if God himself had placed a divine "do not rebuild" sign over the mountain. Even later, rabbis mourned this silence. The Midrash says, "From the day the temple was destroyed, the Shekhinah went into exile with Israel." But what if the Shekhinah didn't leave Israel, but simply moved closer? Yet they rejected him. And why did I say this? Well, it is because it was already written. The prophet Daniel had said that after the Messiah is cut off, the city and the sanctuary will be destroyed. Daniel 9, verse 26. Jesus echoed the same words when he said that not one stone will be left upon another. 2,000 years later, both prophecies still stand unbroken. The divine pattern never restarted because the covenant had already moved, not into another building of stone and gold, but into a new temple made of living hearts. And that's why this topic is important to talk about, because if you've ever followed synagogue readings, you might have noticed something curious. Certain passages, like Isaiah 53, are skipped entirely. And you'll rarely, if ever, hear a sermon on why the divine presence never returned to the temple after its destruction. That silence isn't accidental, it's not ignorance, it's survival. For nearly 2,000 years, Jewish scholars have lived in the shadow of Christian interpretation. Every verse that sounded too Christian, every prophecy that hinted at a suffering Messiah, became territory to avoid. By steering clear of those texts, rabbis could protect their people from conversion debates. But something deeper was lost in the process, because in closing those chapters, they also closed the door on one of Israel's most haunting questions. Why did God leave his own house? Why did God depart from the Jewish temple? That's the question history still whispers, but few dare to answer. And that silence itself is evidence, because truth doesn't fear examination. In conclusion, if Judaism were complete without Jesus, the presence of God would still dwell in the temple. But he left, not because he abandoned his people, but because he fulfilled his promise. The same glory that once filled the Holy of Holies now fills those who believe. The true temple isn't made of stone, and it isn't limited to Jerusalem. It lives in every heart that welcomes the Messiah of Israel. And when you follow the evidence, all roads lead to Christ. The same presence that once hovered over the ark now rests within every believer. That's not the end of Israel's story, it's the fulfillment of it. Thank you for watching. Please do not forget to subscribe. More importantly, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next video.